Hello and welcome to what has pretty much become the Bruce Lee channel of late. Been talking quite a bit recently about some of the upcoming video releases for Bruce Lee movies. I won't talk too much about that here, but for context, if you're interested in Bruce Lee stuff, check out the recent videos on this channel. We also have a dedicated playlist because there's been some developments. Now, this video I'm going to be talking about this documentary that came out about 10 years ago regarding Bruce Lee, but also covers Brandon Lee as well. It's not just about their deaths, but it does heavily focus on that. You'll see what I mean anyway. Let's get into that. And also, apologies if I sound a bit stuffy on the video. I recorded it a couple of days ago when I was full of a cold. Still recovering now, so yeah, you'll have to kind of get used to that for this. But yeah, enjoy.
Game face on when I chase like that, yeah, I play so strong with a knife in the back. I'ma swing home run like a baseball bat. Gonna see me rise, you can hate on that. I don't play both sides, doing me no cap. I'm a ride or die for my dreams on tap. I'm a fly real high, you ain't seen me stack.
Right, quick video just to recommend a documentary that you can actually get quite easily for quite a good price as well regarding Bruce Lee. This is one that was made 30 years ago, actually. I'm not quite sure how many times this has been re-edited or whatever. I do know this was once available on videotape back in the day. Now, this is a documentary that I seem to have misremembered. I have seen this before. I've owned it for a few years, and I kind of misremembered this documentary as being kind of, hesitate to use the word conspiratorial. I might be getting confused with something else. This is actually one that does tell quite an interesting story from the people that were there at the time when Bruce Lee died, the people that knew him, the people that worked with him at the end, and some of the medical people that were involved with treating Bruce Lee when he passed away back in 1973. Now, this documentary is very good in that it shows you a lot. It's quite heavy on the use of footage. It shows you a lot of early Bruce Lee acting from when he was a child. It covers a lot of that. Obviously, that's been covered in other documentaries as well. This shows how he kind of evolved as a child actor and then went on to do what he did more successfully and more famously with his later films. Now, like I say, this has been covered in many other documentaries. I'm not saying that this is the best one for covering that, but it is very interesting when it talks about Bruce Lee's passing. What I also liked about this one, and it was done in a very tasteful way, it does actually get into the death of Brandon Lee as well, and it shows a lot of interview footage from him from when he was about to go into making the film The Crow, and he's talking about that, and you can tell that it was something that he was very passionate about in this interview that he's talking about with a British media interviewer. This isn't the same interview as in the last interview that everybody knows well, because that was always included with the DVDs, the Blu-rays of The Crow, the last ever interview. It's not that one, it's a different one. I think he just finished the film Rapid Fire when he did this, and it covers some of the career with, well, the short-lived career with Brandon Lee. So it's definitely worth watching. There's some other facets to this as well. There's interviews with George Lazenby. Obviously, he was going to be in the Game of Death movie. Before that came to a sudden halt, obviously, with, well, obviously it came to a halt twice. They put it on mothballs so that Enter the Dragon could be made, and then when he was going to go back to finish the film, obviously Bruce Lee passed away. At that point, George Lazenby, who was the second James Bond actor, was going to be involved with that as well. So he does some interviews on this as well. So it's very interesting, like I say. Don't be put off by the title, the kind of sensationalist, possibly, title of the thing. It's done very tastefully, very respectfully. It also covers some of the Bruceploitation stuff as well as interviews with one of the guys that was one of the famous Bruce Lee rip-off actors, I suppose you could say. I mean, these were just pretty talented guys, to be fair, some of them. Bruce Lee is interviewed in this, and he kind of talks about how he doesn't like the name Bruce Lee. That was something that was kind of given to him from the sounds of it. But like I said, this was all recorded in 1973. The footage does seem to be very much filmed like home video type um, quality to a lot of this, which was quite common back in the 90s, the 80s and 90s. You get these tapes if it was something that you were into, and they were quite openly commercially available at the time. By today's standards, you would think it's fairly poor quality, but back then, this was fairly standard. This was what you got. You have to remember, we didn't have things like DVD extra features back then. This is something that you would go out and buy on tape back in the day, whereas now something like this would be more of kind of an afterthought on a box set or whatever. But this one isn't included in any other Bruce Lee collection that I'm aware of. None of the Hong Kong Legends collections had this, and I don't believe that the upcoming 4K Blu-ray 4K box set from Arrow Video is going to include this either. It's made independently, from what I understand. Have been talking about that on the channel, this upcoming 4K box set that's coming in July. Sorry if I sound awful at the moment. I'm full of a cold, so that's why I maybe sound a little bit dodgy at the moment. But I hope that I've sold this as something that you might want to check out, because it is really good. It's not the best. There's plenty of other documentaries, independent ones out there. There's I Am Bruce Lee, which I watched a couple of days ago as well, actually. Kind of made me want to watch this, because that was very good. That was very well made. That was about 10 years ago that was made. That was very professionally done. But then again, it's nice to watch something like this. It's very basic, it's very factual. And like I say, it doesn't get too much into... in fact, to be fair, I don't think it gets into it at all. What people would say is the conspiracy stuff behind Bruce Lee's death, or even Brandon Lee. It just kind of covers the details that we know. There's always room for discussion, but that's not what this is about. So if that obviously something that you'd be interested in, check it out. Right, like I say, check out the channel. You can like this video, subscribe to the channel. If you check out our playlist section, there is plenty of videos in there relating to Bruce Lee, most of which have been done in the last few weeks, because there's been a lot of news coming out about the 50th anniversary of Bruce Lee's death, and also the 50th anniversary of the release of Enter the Dragon. So we're going to get some 4K releases, and I've been covering some of the latest developments with that on the channel, so you might want to check that out as well. I've also done a couple of videos about Brandon Lee movies as well recently, and there may be a couple of other ones to come. So subscribe and you will see them as they come out. Thank you very much for watching.